Okay, we're just going to explain some of our accessory harnesses, the different options that you can select on the website, and the advantages and disadvantages of both options. So we have the two different types here mainly. So firstly we have flush mount sockets beside us on the right, and then we have our surface mount sockets here. So these surface mount ones are definitely the easiest DIY, and the main reason for that is all that is required to come out and mount them on the plastic interior of your vehicle is simply the hole required for the wire to come out. The reason that's the case, the wire just comes out and then we make our electrical connections inside that tent or housing there. Whereas these flush mount ones require a full hole to be drilled, like 32mm hole for each socket. So you've got to drill large holes into the interior body of your vehicle. That's probably the biggest downside with them. The other downside is if we picture this being mounted on the panel of our car, when we plug our sockets in, they're actually sticking straight out into the cargo area, which can make them a little bit more prone to being bumped by any cargo we have in the back that could move around. They're sticking out into our cargo area. Whereas these ones could be mounted against our plastic, and our sockets are actually parallel to the wall. Any cargo is protected by the tent. So they're probably the main advantages of using these type of sockets. The surface mount ones is that they are just easier to install, but definitely the flush mount ones look great. Lots of people still want to use them, but there is a disadvantage to them, and that's the interior holes being drilled and also the socket sticking out. So just wanted to let you know that for starters. Well, now let's focus more on the accessory harnesses themselves. So in front of me now I have a selection of our flush mount sockets and surface mount sockets, and they're coming with the 6mm twin cable, and that's the one we've got in front of us now. The only variation on that would be the Anderson plug here, which is available in both size harnesses. So if we were wanting to just run our fridge on this, and that's a very popular connection for people, they like to run their fridges through an Anderson plug for a good solid connection, then this harness is all you would need to just run your fridge. 6mm twin, it's going to give you all the power you need in the rear to run that. In that case, the Anderson plug connections or the terminals will already be on the end of this cable, ready to go straight in. That means that we can already pre-solder them and crimp them onto the cable so that they're good to go, and that'll be on the end of a 7-meter harness. So that one aside, the rest of these all will come with this exact harness here. And it's a 7-meter harness like we just said. The reason for that is that it can make it to anywhere in the back of the vehicle that you want. So for instance, if your auxiliary battery is on the passenger side and that's also the side that you want your sockets to be installed, 7 meters is likely going to be too much. So the harness comes without the terminals on the end. The reason is that once you get to that position, if you've got a meter or two spare, you can cut that excess off. Then it's a matter of crimping our 2 yellow terminals onto the end of the cable, the red and the black, and you've got some heat shrink in there to finish them off nicely. And then we just make our electrical connections inside the sockets, and you can see they're already pre-wired with the 2 leads linking them together. We've got our male spade terminals there. Now the process to do that will all be explained in the installation video, but basically we'd just be plugging these onto our red onto the red and our black onto the black. So there we go, that's our selection of sockets that will come with this pre-wired, and they'll all have their piggy tail leads ready to go. They're the only electrical connections required. So let's move on to the next option in the harness. The next option in the accessory harness is the larger cable. Now not only is it larger cable, it's also a higher current fuse holder. It's got a MIDI fuse there, high current fuse, and also 8 BNS cables, so it can handle a bit more power to go down to the rear. Now this size harness is going to come with any of these selections in front of me, and optional on this one, like we mentioned earlier, so you can option up to this size. So the reason being is that we're powering up an Anderson plug, and when you buy these harnesses, the sockets will already be on the end, the Anderson, which does make them a little bit harder to get through the car, but I think it's worth it because we've crimped them on, we've soldered them on, it's a good connection on the Anderson, so once you get it to the rear, it's going to be a far better connection. So how we would go about connecting these is firstly with our Anderson, matching the black to the negative terminal, pushing that in and it'll lock in, Same with the positive, and then we can run our piggybacks across to each side, and that will power up all of our sockets in the series of sockets that we've selected. So that's with all of our flush mount sockets, and also an option with the surface mount Anderson like this one. Now I will just mention about the sleeving. You might have noticed that this one has sleeving all the way down it, and you'll notice when you do purchase the accessory harness on its own, we'll ask you to tell us what vehicle that it's going into, and that will determine what kind of harness and sleeving and even grommet that we'll give you. For instance, the first one that we looked at is our Prado harness. Now it's only got 1200 mil of sleeving to a grommet that's designed to go through an existing Toyota hole and grommet in the firewall to get you inside the vehicle. So that's designed to work on that vehicle. A 200 series would be similar without the grommet, or if you're going to any like ute based vehicle, a 79 series ute or a Hilux, and you're putting it on the tray, then we'd give you one with sleeving the whole way round to follow down through the engine bay and come up at the tray. So hopefully that's an explanation of the different sockets you can choose, the different harnesses, and what you're going to require to set up your 4x4.